Welcome to another mind-bending episode of the FWOT Show on the Coil Entertainment Network, the Happy Hour Network, VillageConnectionRadio.com, iTunes, the Google Play Store. Hell, we're everywhere. I'm your host, Rob Steele. That's Jesus Jones in the background, and this is the show that lets you know that it's not just you. The world has actually lost its collective mind, as evidenced by this new release from Google Trends. It's a list of the most misspelled words by state. Now, this is a list compiled by Google, who have taken all of their searches for how to spell and taken that next word and said that must be a word they're trying to spell. See, how hard is that? And then they broke it down by state. Now, some of them are interesting and make sense. Some of the words are even repeated. 3 of them, actually. The words beautiful, not an easy word to spell. I'm there with that. Hallelujah. I don't know why you'd want to spell that, but there it is. Not an easy word, I get that. And supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Stop that! It's Disney! They'll sue! Apparently because people in West Virginia and Massachusetts are really big Disney fans. Now, some of them I do kind of understand. Like North Carolina has angel, a word I do occasionally misspell because I put angle. Same letters, just switch to. I'm almost there with that. Wisconsin's biggest misspelled word is Wisconsin. I would have thought Connecticut would have gotten there first, but hey, that's fine. I'll even understand Georgia. Not because it's the state I live in, but because there's a homonym with this word. The word most misspelled in Georgia is gray. Now, I don't think it's really misspelled that much. It's a question of, all right, which one's the color and which one's the name? I get that. What I don't get is how the great state of Idaho misspells the word quote. That's right, Quote, quote. That's the biggest misspelled word in their state, which I do not get. Neither do most of the people who live there, according to the flurry of information that has come across all the social media networks that have said, really, we misspell that? But folks, in Idaho, be calm, be happy, for there is another word that's even worse, and that comes from the spectacular state of Rhode Island. Both square feet of it. The most misspelled word in Rhode Island is liar. Interestingly, a word that is not on the list, covfefe, and we'll get to more of that in a minute. News that should worry everybody. German Chancellor, and pretty much the ruler of Europe, because she's that cool, Angela Merkel told an election rally in Munich recently that Europe, quote, must take its fate into its own hands. Actually, she probably said it in German, which would be a bit different, but that's how it translates. Her reasoning behind that is that they can no longer count on the United States or the United Kingdom as much as they used to. And I do understand that. The United Kingdom, because of the whole Brexit thing, and they're not really there as much as they used to be. And the United States, because there's a psychopath running the country now. Now, she didn't say that, as a quote, or whatever that would be in German. But that's what she meant. That's what she was talking about. The whole radicalism of the United States. And I agree with her. I wouldn't trust us, especially with people like David Daubenmire, which kind of sounds German. He's a right-wing religious activist who has a radio show and a podcast, kind of like me, only he's nuts. He's issued a call to arms from his listeners, urging a more violent application of Christianity. Seriously. You want to so Christianity is going to become the new ISIS. Kind of like orange is the new black. No. Did you read your Bible there, Dave? It teaches that we should be nice to other people. We should be doing things for other people, not because of what we get out of it, but because that's the nice thing to do, and it's the way God intended it. It's in the Bible. Maybe you should read it before you do another episode. And now for a new segment on the show, because I'm going to try to break this up into things that make sense. The new segment is this week's Things that Happened with Despicable Politicians Not Named Donald Trump. And keeping up with that whole Christian thing, when asked, what would Jesus do? Republican Representative Jaden Smith from the great state of Nebraska, it's It's another great state. I don't know what's up with that. The great state of Nebraska, who says that not all Americans are entitled to eat food. Just food, not everyone's entitled to eat shrimp or steak or caviar. No, eat, period. Even though it's one of those essential for life things. This whole came up through an interview with NPR this past weekend, where he was asked, what about the people who need food stamps to get food to live? He said not every American is entitled to eat, a basic fundamental of life. Really? Because, that's what Jesus would do. Keeping in the same category, just dropping the Christianity part. And this isn't a big story. I just thought you'd like to know that Ben Carson, the director of Housing and Urban Development, said this past week that poverty is a state of mind. There's not really a story that goes with this. I just thought you'd like to know that he's not sane. Moving on, Ted Cruz, everyone's favorite greasy Republican Texas senator, violated federal election law in his lone campaign in 2012, and the Federal Elections Commission is going to penalize him. They haven't said what yet, but they did say that he did improperly deal with $1.1 million in campaign loans. These he can pay back, as opposed to student loans. We're not even going to go there. But speaking of students and politicians, I happen to like a new school. It's in New Jersey. More specifically, South Orange Middle School in New Jersey, who recently took the 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. I don't know about the West Coast schools, but on the East Coast, that's what you do. You're in the 8th grade, you go to D.C. They had their opportunity to have a class picture taken with Speaker of the House Paul Ryan. Approximately half of the 150 students refused to have their photo taken with him because they said he's creepy and screwing up the country. I found a school that's still teaching children. What a concept! And now for another new segment on the FWOT Show. Which Donald Trump headline didn't happen? These were all headlines last week, but one of them didn't actually happen. Let's see if you can figure out which one it is. Number 1. A confused old man forgets he's at Arlington Cemetery and thinks he's at a baseball game. I'll tell you the story in a minute. Number 2. G7 conference, Trump not wearing translator headphones during Italian talking. Why? Number 3. Twitter fail as world asks Trump, what the hell does "cough-fei-fei" mean? Yeah, I think you know about that one. Number 4, Trump hurls insults after losing bitter 2-year court battle and hundreds of millions of dollars in Scotland. Or number 5, Trump vows to learn the identity of unknown soldier during Memorial Day speech. Guess what, everybody? This week it's a trick question. All of those happened. The first one, confused old man forgets he's at Arlington Cemetery. Yes, that's when they played the national anthem. And it was supposed to be an instrumental version to show respect for fallen soldiers at the Memorial Day address he was giving there. What did Don do? Don tried to sing. I say tried to sing because he got a lot of the words wrong and was horribly out of key. Not that he seemed to care about anything. Why was Donald Trump not wearing translator headphones during the Italian speaking? At the G7 conference? That one we don't have an answer for yet. We just know he wasn't. Is that really a good idea? To be at a conference of global leaders and blatantly ignore one of them? Who is our ally? Hello? "Cough-fei-fei." What do we know about "cough-fei-fei"? No one knows what that means. NBC asked him point blank. Nothing came out of it. Urban Dictionary jumped all over this, and "cough-fei-fei" is now officially a noun. That means when you want to say coverage, but your hands are too small to hit all the letters on the keyboard. My theory is that "cough-fei-fei," actually, you know what? I'm going to hold off on that and tell you on Sunday's Cinema Savants show. See? Plug. Moving on. Donald Trump lost hundreds of millions of dollars in Scotland? Why, yes, he did. Because that court case that Don had, where he said, I don't want you to build that wind farm near my golf course because it's going to look ugly and people won't want to come here. He lost that. Not only did he lose that, but the court ruled that as a punishment for preventing this wind farm from happening, costing Scotland millions of dollars in electricity, because they keep track of that kind of thing, the British Open will no longer be played at Donald Trump's golf course. Ha 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 ha. And according to witnesses at his Memorial Day speech at the tomb of the unknown soldier, Donald Trump vowed to, quote, find out who's in this thing once and for all. We're going to get the best people on it. I don't understand why we've gone since the Civil War without figuring this out, unquote. And you know what? I'm just going to leave this here. Speaking of just leaving things here, I'm not entirely sure what to make of the whole Kathy Griffin and her headless Trump picture. Was it a bit much? Yeah. But look who did it. It's Kathy Griffin, who's known for going a bit too far in just about everything. So should we really be surprised by this? No. Should we think it's a horrific thing? It actually is a horrific thing. It's not a pretty picture to look at. However, something I did notice is that it's all the conservatives, put that in quotes, and Republicans who are having a problem with this. And there's even quotes from people like Beer Bart and Sarah Palin, who said that if a conservative public figure did this to Barack Obama, it would lead every nightly newscast and make sure every American sees the left's hate for what it is. Yeah, a hate for somebody who doesn't need to be in charge of the country, or in charge of a company, or in charge of a golf course, or let out of his playpen with crayons. That's what it's a hate for. But if a public figure did this to Obama, did you people sleep through the past decade? There were people walking around with Obama effigies being hung by a noose and set on fire every day. It was on the news. Did you not pay any attention to that? I would like to also point out, you didn't seem to have a problem with it, although you should. And we should probably have a problem with Kathy Griffin doing this too. And you know who acknowledged that? Kathy Griffin. She said, I apologize. I did go too far. See? Happy? And I'm not real sure what to make of this. I don't know how much of it is true. But apparently there are reports that ISIS is condemning her for cultural appropriation. Not sure if it's true. I do think it's a bit funny. In tech news, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Uber, the hey, I don't want to get a taxi, I'll get a ride from a stranger app, lost $708 million in the first quarter of this year. That's actually a bit better than last quarter. That's right, the end of 2016, they lost over $900 million. I didn't know they had that much money to begin with. Although, after this past loss, the head of the financial department for Uber quit. I suspect his job was short-lived anyway. Other tech news, and I don't entirely understand this one to its fullest extent. It has to do with the Pokemon Go game. For those of you who don't know the game, you actually have to get out of the house to play it and walk around places. Now, there are places called Pokestops where you get extra bonus things to play in the game, and they're usually at landmarks. Now, New York City has said they're going to be disabling Pokestops in Central Park because people are bringing blankets and coolers and children to the park to play this Pokemon game. Now, what they're meaning is they're doing it after hours, when the park is closed. I get that, but come on. Blankets and coolers and children in parks? Oh my God, what's next? Walking your dog? We can't have that now, can we? Oh, and I'll go ahead and throw this in tech news because it has to do with Tesla founder Elon Musk. Elon has said if Donald Trump actually pulls out of this whole global climate change conference in France, he's leaving. He's going to leave Donald Trump's little consortium of tech people he should listen to, because obviously Donald's not. Now, if we can just get everyone else to follow and leave Donnie alone, maybe we can just wall him up in the White House and build another one somewhere else. Unusual entertainment news concerning the Manchester bombing last week. Ariana Grande has said that she is going to be holding a benefit concert for the victims in Manchester. I get that. Hang on a minute. She's holding it in Manchester. Are we sure that's a good idea? Because, I mean, look, last time she was there, it didn't go very well. But in related news to this past Saturday, they finally reduced the threat level in the UK from critical to severe. What does that mean? I no idea. Buy a helmet, wear the helmet. I guess that's it. I don't know what you're supposed to do. But following up on another story we had last week from Roger Waters, when he was calling Donald Trump a pig, because, things like that happen. He had to refund 13 tickets at a Kansas City concert because he put up the words "Trump is a pig" on the big screen. Now, if you've ever seen a Pink Floyd concert, you know that wall is big enough to keep illegal immigrants out of the country. That's a big wall. And those are big letters that he put it up in. Find the picture. It's all over social media. But you had to refund tickets? Really? I mean, have you people never heard of Roger Waters? And if not, what are you doing at his concerts? Other entertainment news. That makes very little sense. There are women-only screenings of the new Wonder Woman. I get that. They're being protested by men. I don't get that. They're doing it because they claim it's sexist to keep men out. Really? Conversely, the men-only committees on women's health care, they're perfectly okay with that. Not that that makes any sense. Of course, the best response so far is for the women-only screenings, the ticket prices should only be 85% of regular prices to reflect the gender wage gap. Just saying. In health news, a big win happened not only for providers of knockoff drugs, but also printer ink. Follow us on this. It gets a little complicated. There's a company called Impression that was being sued by printer maker Lexmark for taking old Lexmark printer ink cartridges and refilling them and selling them considerably cheaper. Lexmark claimed that they had a patent on the whole process and that no, you can't do that without giving them money too. Well, it turns out the court disagrees, and Impression is now able to make printer ink cartridges however they want. What does this have to do with drugs? Well, companies like Pfizer and Eli Lilly wanted to have the patent protected internationally. That way, other countries can't produce knockoff drugs of, let's say, Viagra, which in the States costs $60, but in, let's say, Mexico and Canada, it costs, $5 or less. That way, they would be able to protect themselves from people going to other countries and getting cheaper medication. Except, people want the cheaper medication, so this is phenomenally good news that the printer ink company won its court case. Because I always think of printer ink when I take my medication. Don't you? But in other health news, which I'm not sure this is really health news, and I don't trust it in the slightest. A study, and you can put that in quotes, has come out that says chicken nuggets can cause you to be gay. And there's a lot of data that goes with this study that has very few things to tie it together. You thought the printer ink and Viagra combination was hard to swallow. Wait till you see this chicken nugget report, which includes some very strange things, such as, in spring, a man may permit himself to ejaculate once every 3 days, but in summer and autumn he should limit his ejaculations to twice a month, and during the cold of winter, a man should preserve his semen and avoid ejaculation altogether. I'm not even sure why this is in a thing with chicken nuggets, but there it is. And if you can tie it together, let me know. Contact me at rob@thefwotshow.com or go to the website, thefwotshow.com, and click the buttons for Facebook or Twitter. I answer everything if you've got answers for any of this stuff that's in this show, because there are questions. Let me know. I'll pass it along to everyone. Education is a good thing. While you're at the website, don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes or through the Google Play Store. And speaking of stores, don't forget to go to the FWOT shop, where you can find things like a hat or a t-shirt or even a color-changing coffee mug. Because those are cool. Who doesn't want one of those? In the meantime, I'm going to leave you with, it's kind of a health story. It's kind of an entertainment news story. It's kind of a, wow. It's just weird. And it has to do with Jaden Smith, son of Will Smith. I like Will. Will is cool. His son is a bit weird. This past week, he claims that he was at the Four Seasons Hotel in Toronto. That we can verify. However, he claims that the restaurant in the hotel spiked his pancakes with cheese and then kicked him out. I'm just wondering, how do you spike a pancake with cheese? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just passing it along. I don't know. He didn't listen to the warning from last week's show, did he? Which I give at the end of every show, like I'm doing right now. Have a good weekend, everybody, and be careful. It's really weird out there. And look out for someone spiking your pancakes with cheese, because apparently that's a thing.